So welcome everybody to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio. Today is Thursday, October the 19th, 2023, and our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And press 1, and that puts you into queue. Your hand goes up, and we know you want to talk instead of that you're just out there listening. And we're glad that you're out there listening, but it definitely helps direct what direction the show is going to go when you ask the questions. And so we'd love to hear from you. We'd like to take the show in the direction that would support you. We'll give Michael a moment to dial in. And a reminder, we will not have the book club next week. Yinka's off with her kids. But this coming Saturday is our Mind Shifters and StillPoint Breathing. For those of you who are part of that, we will be sending out a new Mind Shifters list. And if you're interested in being part of that, please get in touch with me or Michael. If you have our phone numbers, call us, or my email is Jeanie, Jeanie, @yagain.org. And let us know that you would like to register and be part of that. And we will send you the information, the Zoom link, how to angle your camera so that we can see you when you're laying down breathing, and all of the information that you need for that. So if you're interested, please let us know. Welcome, Michael. Hello, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart. I'll be here. Just took a second to get the right screen up so I could undo the mute button. And so welcome, everybody. Once again, we're just delighted to get to carry on this conversation, to bring a different energy to the world than what most of the world is being governed by, and to move in the direction of really fully functioning as human beings here in the world. What an opportunity. What an opportunity. I was talking to someone yesterday, they were talking about how, as they've been doing their work, how marvelous the world has become, how something just as simple as a sky is something to have joy over. And of course, that's projection. To think that a sky could cause me joy is just silly. But if there's joy in me, a sky can bring it up, or a flower, or a child, and if there's hostility or fear in me, a sky, a flower, a child can bring it up. You know, oftentimes people will say, well, I look at that newborn infant and I feel so good, like the infant's responsible for their feelings. No, what's responsible for the feelings are the thoughts that they have hooked up to their brain's image of an infant. They look at their former spouse, they have thoughts of hostility and raging. They look at them and they say, oh, I just feel awful when I look at them or think of them. As though looking at them or thinking of them can cause anything inside of you. If looking at your former spouse or your present spouse or your children or anything or anybody, quote unquote, makes you feel some sort of turmoil or pain or upset or disturbance or trauma, stop lying to yourself. It doesn't make you feel anything. What makes you feel are the thoughts that are resonated, the thoughts that are linked to that person, place, object, circumstance, or activity. Once you wake up to that, then you realize that every time your physiology is producing some form of hostility or fear, it's your next piece of work. It's your next opportunity. And so to realize that that's what the game is really all about, living as a human being, living out of the active presence of conscious, active, present love, and every thought disorder, that is any thought based in hostility or fear, because by definitions, based in hostility or fear are corrupt data. Anything that is tagged in the mind with hostility or fear is tagged with hostility or fear because the data, the thought disorders keyed into that object of attention are corrupted. You know, it's like if you've ever had it happen, you're working on a file and gee, you didn't save it, and all of a sudden you try to open that file and it comes up with a message corrupt. And you can't open that file. It's useless to you. Well, the world has found a way to make use of hostility and fear, but it is useless to a human being. Hostility and fear are absolutely, totally, completely useless to an actual human being. To one who lives out of a false image of self, a false picture in the mind of who one believes oneself to be, oh, you can attach all kinds of rage and guilt and grief and pain and trauma to that. And by definition, one who's doing that is insane. You say, well, Michael, most of the world is doing that. Yeah, that's right. Most of the world is pretty bizarre and pretty insane. So let's wake up to who we are as human beings and bring love present to the mind. You know, you look in the ancient scriptures and they talk repeatedly about the mind of man. And we talk about carbon-based memory. The instrument of the mind of man is the human brain. And you'll note that oftentimes it sounds kind of tongue-in-cheek, but I'm really serious. In order to heal, you've got to be out of your mind. Here you can go back to a particular situation where Yeshua comes out of the Garden of Gethsemane, and there's Peter with his sword ready to attack. He informs him that if he lives by the sword, and it's not just the literal sword, if your sword is your mouth or your looks, the way you look at people, if that's what you're pointing at someone else, that's you get the original, they get the carbon copy. So in that circumstance, Yeshua literally calls Peter Satan. Now, most of the world's been conned into thinking that Satan is this dude with a red suit, a pail, and pitchfork. That is one of the basic tenets of the one world religion of blame. Satan made me do it. It's out there. In Aramaic, the word Satan means the deceiver, one who misleads. In this particular passage, where Yeshua addresses Peter as Satan, and he says this, "Get thee behind me, Satan. For you think in the mind of man rather than the plan of the Creator." In other words, you're stuck in carbon-based memory. You're stuck in this instrument, the brain, hallucinating all sorts of things about its hostility and fear-based content and destroying your ability to conceive of the world that the Creator created for you. So you think in the mind of man, carbon-based memory. Now look at carbon-based memory. What is that? Well, if you hauled your carcass into a facility, a lab, that broke down the components of your carcass, you said, tell me what's the most common element in this thing? And they'll tell you that its base element is carbon. Now you might remember there's a number to this thing that they called Satan, and you might recognize there's a number to the carbon atom. What is it? 666. 6 electrons, 6 protons, 6 neutrons. Carbon-based memory stores corrupt data from the past, uses it to produce pictures in the mind of man. Again, watch the video. Go to YouTube and type in Anil, A-N-I-L-S-E-T-H, Anil Seth's TED Talk, and watch it. And he'll prove to you that everything that you think you see with your eyes, you do not see with your eyes, you see with your brain. And the pictures that your brain generates are kind of painted on the inside of your eyeballs, and being that they're on the inside of your eyeballs, you think you're looking out through your eyeballs at what's out there. And that's fraud. And you'll notice when people are in upset or disturbance, and someone comes along and invites them to actually be accountable for their pain, accountable for what they're doing to themselves, actually invites them to be responsible for what's going on inside of them, you'll notice that what virtually everyone does is go, no, no, that's not true. That's called resistance. And then one who misleads. What's the next thing people do when they tell you that it's not them? They've got a whole story about how what's going on in their lives is somebody else's fault. And if you listen to them, they'd be able to tell you the story about how it was their fault when they were, 10 years of age in school. And then they could tell you how it was that girlfriend or boyfriend's fault when they were 17. And then they can tell you about how it was the boss's fault when they were 20. And they can tell you about how it was the spouse's fault when they were 25. And they can tell you, they got a whole lineup for their whole lives. And the conversation's all about somebody else. Unless they're in their one world religion of blame game towards themselves. And then, of course, the story will be about themselves. It'll still be blame. By the way, in Aramaic, you are your own neighbor. The true being that you are has a neighbor, and the neighbor is the false self. The self that Yeshua said, in order for you to live, you've got to die. The false self has got to go. We need to remove the false self, and that's what forgiveness does, and that's why most people resist forgiveness, because they like that self. They think that self is a winner. Pain and its drama and its trauma and its victimhood. Oh, they'll tell you how terrible it is when you want, and how they want to get rid of it, but then when you say, okay, here's the exact formula for getting rid of it, guess what they do? They don't do anything about it. When Jeanie and I were traveling, let's say we do a workshop, a Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop, and there'd be 100 people there. And at the end of the week, at the end of the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop, which is the one we always did the first day, I would invite people to do, people would be very excited about, wow, this is pretty cool. It was all fresh and it was firing in brain cells, so they had a comprehension. I went, wow, this is great. I'm going to do this. And I suggest to them they do 5 worksheets a day for the next 40 days. And if you're out there and you were at one of those workshops and you said, yeah, I'm going to do that 5 worksheets a day, push 1 and tell us whether you actually did those 5 worksheets a day. Or did you go into resistance? Anyway, so we start out, we've got 100 people. Usually by Thursday, we'd have maybe 130 or 140 people in that audience. And I'd ask, how many have been doing your 5 worksheets a day? I'd be really happy if 3 people put their hand up, because that would be about it. I'd say 4 worksheets, maybe 1 person. 3, maybe 2 more people. 2, maybe 4 people. 1, maybe another 5. Total of 10 to 15 people out of 100 actually even did 1 worksheet after that workshop. Why? Because to forgive is to dismantle the false self. And if you think that's who you are, well, who wants to let that go? But guess what? If the false self is capable of some form of hostility or fear, it is a false self. It isn't who you are. The truth of who you are, if you ever held a newborn child and tapped into the essence of that newborn child, it's really clear that that newborn child is love. So rather than, when I look at that child, they make me feel so good, when I look at that child, it's much more accurate to say, wow, what they resonated in me is all kinds of thoughts of sweetness and bliss and happiness and joy and love. Oh. And then I say, well, is that child loving you? Well, no, that child is love. Now we're talking about a human life. If love is not conscious, active, and present in you, you don't have a human life. The idea of this work is to regain it. But there's a self made of hostility or fear that's been running the show for most people. And he's a tough one. It's interesting, if you look through the indigenous cultures around the world, they all had a trickster of some kind, of wily coyote. And That's the symbol of this ego self, this non-being self. You look at, the definition in the ancient scriptures of the Creator is love, ego, edging God, edging love out, is what this non-being self does. And the instrument of it is the brain. That's why when we do StillPoint Breathing, as we're going to do on Saturday, we'll be asking people to breathe through their mouths rather than their noses. When you breathe through your nose, there are all kinds of passageways that oxygen travels through and boom, keeps the brain firing. In the StillPoint Breathing process, we want you to be out of your mind. We want to just let that thing go. And then recognize that there is another mind in you that is based in love. It is literally the Creator's mind, and it's your birthright to function out of that mind. And that mind is an expression of who you are as a human being. The Battle of Armageddon is not about some battle that's going to happen out there in the Middle East. The Battle of Armageddon is the battle between being and non-being. The battleground is the body. And the more the battle goes on, the more the resistance to truth happens, the more battered one becomes physiologically, and the more aches and pains, traumas they have, diseases, death and suffering. So the objective here is to allow yourself the space to open to conscious, active, present love. Excuse me. I couldn't get to the mute button fast enough. I apologize for sneezing in your ear. So to bring forward the direct experience of conscious, active, present love and have the mind that reflects the false self, the ego, get still and quiet. That's one of the reasons why it's called StillPoint Breathing, because there's a point in the process where the breath spontaneously stops and everything inside is quiet. You'll remember there was an admonition in the ancient scriptures, be still and know. That's the point at which you have the direct experience. And if you hadn't had that yet, come play and be part of the workshop. It's an awesome tool to learn to use and to develop the skill of cleaning out what's in carbon-based memory, removing the hostility, the fear, the grief, the rage, the drama, and the trauma. So in essence, that's what we are here to do. And it's a delight to have you be part of the conversation. If you're out there in listener land and you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, our call-in number is 563-999-3581, 563-999-3581. If you call that number, you'll be listening to the show directly. And then if you push 1, that will raise a hand in the control panel, and you and I will be having a conversation. So, Miss Jeanie, do we have anybody out there in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
It is quiet in both places. One thing that came to my mind as you were talking there, when you were talking about, the flowers or whatever, bringing up joy for you. Perhaps explain how you could do a worksheet on the good things, because I tell people all the time, the worksheets are not just for getting rid of your anger, fear, sadness, or whatever, but also you can use the worksheets if you think something outside of you makes you happy or joyful or whatever.
Yes.
Oh, Susan said she pressed 1. I thought her hand was still up from Dr. Tim, so let me turn her microphone on.
Well, let's say hello to the young lady.
Hello, Miss Susan.
Hey there, welcome.
Hello, guys. Hi. this shouldn't take long unless you want to explain, because I was going to ask, I printed out what you put on Facebook, Michael, and I wondered, you were pretty energized yesterday. I wondered if you've had any feedback, because it's basically you gave the best of your best teachings in there.
Have not had any feedback on it.
Whoa. You
Not
seemed
yet.
a little worried about whether it was the right thing to do. Anyway,
well,
it
seems not. Yeah, for me, it wasn't so much worry about whether it was the right thing to do. I knew it was the right thing to do. It was whether or not I want to take the flack from people who are going to go, oh, you're blaming the victim, and, that whole game.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Gotcha. All right.
And I breathed and let go of that one and went ahead and did it. And I'm actually, and I will send you a copy when I get finished with it. I don't know, it might be a day or 2 or 3 or 10. I'm actually going through it now and refining it and adding some other key concepts to it.
Okay.
And a couple of people had requested that be put on the website too, just in case Facebook took it down. So when Michael gets it edited, he's going to send it to me and I'll put it out on their website.
Oh, good. Very
so
good.
What about it in particular struck you, Susan?
It's the teachings about forgiveness, Aramaic forgiveness. You don't push any religion at all, thank goodness. I mean, you wouldn't, but it is a corrective document. It's, if we really pay attention to it, it could make a huge difference. And you give examples and you give links. It's a treasure trove, really.
Well, it's actually, it is along the lines of a topic I actually, a few years ago, considered writing another book entitled, Would the Real Yeshua, would the real Jesus Christ please stand up? Because the one most of the world is looking at is a fake. The one most of the world is thinking, oh, you can fix it for me, rather than thank you for giving me the tools to fix it. The fake Yeshua is the object of unrealistic expectations. And so anyway, I've considered writing that doing that as a title of a book, and that would be, the essence of it would be that article, Would the Real Yeshua Please Stand Up? Because he's right in your face. You got to do your work. It's your responsibility.
Yeah.
And
right.
When you look at that passage I love to refer to, where there are a number of disciples there, and they ask him, what do we need to do to make the Creator happy? And he tells them they have to, in essence, he tells them you have to do their work. And half of his disciples say too hard a thing, they turn and leave, and they go off and make up a theology of Jesus saves. That it's all up to him. He's going to fix it for you, rather than, hey, I gave you the tools, here it is. Here, you have to do it. You have to do whatever it takes to return to the presence of active love. And I think that's kind of, where that passage where Paul talks about, if I have not love, I am as a tingling cymbal. I am nothing, because we are nothing if we're not human. The false self is nothing. It's no different than a program in a computer. That's why when people experience clinical death, it's like pulling the plug on the computer shuts down, carbon-based memory's gone. And if that person who experienced clinical death gets resuscitated, they've had a taste of their own human lives, and they bring that back with them. Changes everything.
Yeah.
Well, to me, the work of Yeshua is to have the exact same result as the near-life experience, which the world calls a near-death experience, but not having to take the risk of going through clinical death, but to do your work clean up your mind and really truly experience yourself. Like, make a space, quiet this brain's mind to the point where it can no longer convince you that your whatever your message or power person gave you about your particular style of brokenness, to let go of that long enough to actually directly experience who you are as the presence of love.
You know, this leads right into a question I've always had about being, and I'm a church-going person who says the creed reluctantly every week, but the idea that we are so bad that Jesus, God, had to sacrifice his son for us because we're that bad. It sets up a dynamic of never believing in ourselves, a dynamic of perpetual, irredeemable guilt. And this would do away with all that.
And that would do away with the control. That would do away with the control that most of churchianity attempts to maintain over people's lives.
Yeah.
And to me, a structure such as a church can be every bit as successful and empowering if they just honor who people are and support them being literally what they are, and that is the offspring of love, the offspring of the Creator.
Mm-hmm. I think many ministers understand that, and churches do. There are churches that teach that.
Absolutely.
And do all kinds of wonderful things, but the underlying, it goes all the way back to Adam. Adam preceded the law, and yet he took the apple, and God was so angry that all of humanity for all time until Jesus was guilty. And yet they put in the law, and then Paul says, I know I'm going off, but then Paul says the law makes sin possible, because then there's the law, and if you don't follow the law, you sin by breaking the law. So before the law, there was no sin, but then how come God was so mad that Adam took the apple? I don't know if that made any sense. But
it made perfect sense. That's the theology of most churches, and that's where the power lies, and it's a total fraud. You think love was mad about something? Like, if you buy that one, then, the rest of the story, well, I guess people would fall for anything. So the absolute pure presence of love beyond our comprehension, can get mad at us. And, again, remember when the one world religion of blame, universal religion of blame began, was in the Garden of Eden, and Adam explained to God how it was all God's fault because of that woman. So now Adam's got God and the woman to blame. So who do you suppose, when Adam engaged in hostility and fear and broke his connection to active present love and therefore experienced pain, what do you suppose his next thought was? Got to have somebody to blame. Oh, God was so peeved that he threw me out of the garden. And from there comes the whole theology of most of churchianity. Well, and Eve, I mean, it was just on it goes.
Yeah.
So,
God help us.
Yes,
really.
Men who are filled with rage believe there's a God filled with rage. And there are all kinds of stories that have been told about that God, that hallucination in people's minds.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyway,
so it's all a subject of forgiveness, to be forgiven.
Mm.
All of that garbage.
The only thing I could say about this thing you wrote on Facebook is it's so long that those of us who scroll through fast won't read it. I wish there were a way that it could be presented, maybe it's not possible, in in a small, concise, absolutely mind-blowing way that would catch everybody's attention, and they couldn't help but read the whole thing.
What if it were in chapters, like a book?
Yeah, right. Just a nugget. Stay tuned. I don't know. That's a Paul assignment.
So let me see. We have tens of thousands of years. Well, let's just say in the more traditional, we have thousands of years of blaming everybody else and being lost in generational patterns of rage and murder and slaughter and war and trauma. And we should be able to answer that whole question in 5 minutes or less.
Well, or at least provide a hook. Like Jeanie said, how about in chapters, a hook that is so tantalizing that we've got to read the next one. I don't know, Michael. I'm not really even, I don't know how you could do that. But you give so much, and I'm afraid, I mean, if I didn't know you, I wouldn't have read it. Because I would have scrolled down and seen how long it was and say, oh, that isn't what Facebook is for. I'm not going to do this. I hate to tell you, but that's my...
No, I understand it. That's exactly what I said at the beginning when I said, we do a workshop, there are 100 people. I'll be really happy if 2 people have done their 5 worksheets a day by Thursday. Who wants to step in and face what needs to be faced? Nobody. So we do a radio show, and hopefully people hang around long enough to build the brain cells so that they'll go, oh, I'm willing and I'm ready to move and look deeper.
Well, you sure had a hook at the beginning. There's a violent psychosis going on in the Republican MAGA world. You know, you really, that's an invitation, but it also might send people screaming for the hills, too, because they're not ready to hear that right off the bat. I think you're right.
Okay. I think you're looking at a different post than the one that we were talking about around what's happening in the Middle East.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So look for the one that starts out with the middle. It has a title. You know, there's a picture and a page of what's going on in Israel and Palestine.
Okay.
Different article.
Oh, sorry then. My apologies.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, they're parallel articles. They're basically saying the same thing, just for a different audience. I'm just opening it now.
Yeah, I see something. M. Joyce Gustafson, then Sophie M. Joyce. This doesn't look like the right thing, even though you're...
No, it's there are at least a dozen or more posts in front of it.
Oh, okay.
It starts out with the first words in it are Job 3:25. That which I feared most has come upon me.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay.
A family, many families wiped out again. And as in this case, each says, we really don't understand why this is happening to us. And that's literally a picture of a family. And they're asking the question, why did this happen to us? Their family in Israel's been murdered. They're missing 2 girls, and the gentleman's wife has been murdered.
Oh. Well, I'm somehow looking at the wrong thing then.
Okay, look down about maybe 15 posts from the top. And the picture, you can scroll down and see it pretty quickly. The picture is of a young girl and a woman. They look like they're sitting in a car. and again, it's also a long piece. But yeah, there's a woman in a light green shirt and a child in a blue top sitting in a car with their seatbelts on. And in the right-hand side of the picture, it says the Telegraph. And it's from an article from a newspaper in the UK. These folks were British. I said they were American, but they were British.
I got it. Okay.
We don't know what they did to our girls. Oh, no apology needed. Same conversation, just a different audience. So it'd be cool to have your feedback on that one and how it fits.
All right. Well, I'm going to copy it into my notes and then print it. There, I've done that.
Cool.
Much. Okay, printing. Yeah.
And then when I'm finished I'm going to send it to you. And then when I'm finished, I'm going to send it to you, and you can edit it so that it goes zoom right where you want it to
go. Well, that might not be necessary, but okay.
So when someone comes to Hartley and has a suggestion about doing something, you say, great, okay, go for it.
Yeah, right, I get it. I've stuck my neck out. All right.
So if you have a vision for that, I'd be delighted to have that support.
All right, you've got it.
Cool. Sweet. Did you listen to that piece of music that I sent you on?
Oh, gorgeous.
You can relax now?
Absolutely beautiful. I sent it to Jacob.
That an awesome piece of music?
He hasn't. It is beautiful. I sent it to Jacob because he's wired very tight. He worries about everything in the world and goes on these rants, which is part of being, as he calls it, neurodivergent. He's a little bit on the spectrum.
I'd call it sympathetic dominant.
Okay, got it. But I can intercept him. I could say, Boone, you're on your rant, and I haven't disagreed with anything you said, but I want to ask you a question. And you say, okay. And I'll ask him a question about his cat. And he's off in a whole other direction. And then from there, we can have a regular dialogue. But if he gets on one of those rants, it's like getting on a car with no brakes. Yeah.
Right.
And so this song is perfect for him because I think he does that because he doesn't feel safe.
That's exactly what sympathetic dominance is.
Yep.
Fight, flight, fright, fear, or fawning.
Oh, yeah.
When the fight doesn't work, and then shift into, okay, what can I do? Anything to make you happy, anything to please you. What do I need to do? And that's the fawning aspect of sympathetic dominance.
Yep.
And it has a monumental impact on physiology, on blood flow, where blood goes, what happens to digestion, brain function, lung function, everything. It changes everything. Have I sent you the video of the presentation I did for the medical community through Avison on sympathetic, parasympathetic?
I'm sure you have, and I haven't watched it. No, I haven't.
Okay, I'll separate out that link and send it. It's about 20 minutes, 23 minutes, I think.
Okay.
But it'll speak in a whole other way to you, I think. It'll be an important set of brain cells to build.
Okay.
Cool. Well, any other thoughts? I know that Doug was there yesterday, and he was asking for your phone number. Have you heard from Doug?
I was supposed to call him. Jeanie sent me his number, and I haven't. I want to give it a block of time, and the blocks of time are few and far between. I've got a sister having a brain operation today. So, in fact, she went in at 6 in the morning, and this is an older sister who went in with the most wonderful attitude. She says, I'm fine. I trust the doctors. Whatever happens, even if I don't live, I am fine with it. She's very peaceful. And she's
holding
old.
the space.
She's 7 years. Thank you. Her name is Elizabeth Al-Qaeda, and she was a Unitarian minister for many years. And she's a true mystic. She listened to the radio show for several years early on and used to call me afterwards and say, wow, what a discussion that was. And but she has stopped. I think it's partly that she's just been extremely tired with this. She had a benign tumor 45 years ago and had the tumor taken out, and it was in her speech center, and so they were amazed that she could talk. But she's never lost her speech. So they put in a plate to cover where the wound, the skull piece had to be taken out.
Right.
And now that she's 86 or 7 years old, the plate was vinyl, and it deteriorated, and she started oozing and doing all kinds of things, and it took months before the doctors could schedule her. She should have gone to the emergency room. When they finally saw her, they said, "Oh my God, it's a wonder you're alive, and quick, get up there on the operating table." And they said, "We can fix this. You don't have to die of an infection of the brain. You don't have to die."
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay, go for it then. I love it. She's on there, so I'm very hopeful for her one way or another. But anyway, I haven't talked to Doug. That's a roundabout excuse.
Okay. Well, join you in holding the space for her, for whatever her chosen outcome is, and peace in the family system with whatever her chosen outcome is. And Jeanie, is Doug there? Doug, are you out there? Do you want to push one and
he is, and I will
that...
turn on his microphone.
Hello, y'all.
There. Hi.
Hey there,
Hi,
y'all.
Doug.
Gee, you don't sound like you're from St. Louis. You sound like you're from the South, y'all.
Sometimes. And sure, yeah. This is an invitation for you to send me your contact information or email or so I can touch in once in a while about something. I don't need a large block of your time. Don't worry. But as you wish.
Okay. No, that's great. I thought we were going to have a talk, and I figured, boy, I better allot some time to this. So,
no, you don't need to.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay.
Well, maybe we can have, seeing as how it's around yesterday's show or the conversations we've been having, maybe we can have the conversation here and everybody can benefit from it. Is there anything we can open up by way of discussion?
I'm going to ask Susan about some of her early comments in the show, just about what she said she'd been listening to certain things. I wanted to reference into them. I don't even know exactly what they all were, but it's not. Yeah, I don't know where I would go exactly right now in the show about it all, other than just that I just was seeing early on how the whole playing out of all of this just represents what's going on in the Middle East. All the dynamics of human behavior, being, non-being, in the macro, out there with it's just quite remarkable, and also the conversation that went on the day or two before that about defense. In my defenselessness, my safety lies, and how when we attack, we just perpetuate attack, and it's just very interesting and sad, but
actually, Doug, the point on that lesson from the Course is not if I attack, I perpetuate attack, but if I defend, I'm perpetuating attack.
Right, defend. Okay.
Because the defense itself sets the stage for the attack to happen.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So interesting how that plays out.
Back about 3 months ago, I've been working on this native species garden, and was sitting outside, just kind of hanging out with the energy of the garden. And there was an opening, and the opening was the way that I saw what was happening, the way I was able to understand it was not that we gathered all these physical things and made something happen here, but that energetically, when we were in harmony with the energy of the garden, that drew in the supply from the invisible realm. If that makes sense. It's difficult to put into words. But
Yeah.
it wasn't that all these things had to happen on Earth for it to occur, but rather that the energy, when the energy was right, that's what drew the manifestation out of the nothingness so that it could appear here.
That's a great
If
concept.
that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. And of course, these are all concepts that I want to expand and deepen. Just like the concept about how do you then be defenseless? You know, it's like it's.
I know how. We have an app for that, Doug. It's called forgiveness. You forgive as to your defense until there is no defense left in you. And when there is no defense left in you, that will be when defense is replaced with trust. But lots of people talk about God. Oh, God's so great, God's so great, God's so... But they don't have one iota of trust in God. When the chips are up or the stress is up and the chips are down, what they trust in is their rage and their fear and their distrust and their attack. They don't have the slightest relationship with God. They're just totally frauding themselves. So look at yourself when you're under stress and see what you turn to, and you know what your God is.
Yeah.
There's the word. So how do you get to be defenseless? It's called forgiveness. Now, there's a passage in the scriptures that comes to mind, and it kind of fits in with the garden. And this was part of what I was. I don't even know. There's not even a word for it. Understanding, experiencing, comprehending, being shown, being taught. I'm not even sure how to explain it. There aren't words for it. But this passage in the scriptures says that those who are in harmony with the law, and remember that law, we started out with a discussion of law, and the world would have us believe, kings would have us believe that he makes the laws. The rule of the superior is the law. Like, we talk about how we have lawmakers in Washington. Well, there's not a lawmaker in Washington. There's never been a human that's made a law. In Aramaic, law is the way things work. And so one of the promises in the law, regarding farming, and that's why it was part of this experience for me, is what it promises is if you're in harmony with the law, you'll get rain in due season. You won't have a drought. You'll get rain. What does that mean? This is part of the comprehension that I had in that insight that I'm sharing with you. And it was like, when I'm energetically in alignment with the active presence of love, and I'm functioning out of love in whatever I do, whether it's I'm cooking my dinner, I'm making a phone call, I'm writing a story, I'm on the phone, I'm working in the garden, whatever it is, if I'm in harmony with love, if I'm in harmony with the law, then it's that harmony that brings the rain, that sources the rain in due season. When I fall out of harmony with the law, then I destroy the conditions that creates the rain in due seasons, and I create trauma in my world. I set the stage for the creative process that produces trauma to happen.
But Michael,
go ahead, Susan.
Question: you're not just alone in the universe. You are in harmony with the law, but if all the people around you aren't, is it going to rain just in a 4-inch patch where you happen to be standing?
Well, remember that, let's listen to Einstein for a minute. If you think you're separate or separated from the rest of humanity, you're living in an optical delusion.
Exactly.
I don't stand alone in this. Well,
Mr.
my take would be...
Door, okay.
My offering would be,
Okay.
Let's take a breath.
All
So remember, there's this thing called critical mass. Yeshua says a little leavening leavens the whole loaf. I don't have to go out and convert every neighbor to live in love in order for me to be in harmony with law, inspire others, and create a critical mass shift that opens the space for that.
But until
I don't have to
that
go out and
happens,
fix every mind on the
you're
planet.
not going to get the rain.
Well, I'm not so sure that's true.
Okay.
Because if you are space and you're part of creating a space and you impact your environment and your circumstance and your community, then you bring yourself, to me it's like, energy systems don't bring through more energy by efforting, they bring through more energy by aligning. The deeper each of us comes into harmony, the deeper we inspire those who are close to us to be in harmony, the more, I talked yesterday about that time when, I believed to do spiritual work you need to live in poverty and, didn't know if I was going to feed my kids. And I could tell you where I was right on I-95 at Hillsborough Boulevard when that energy shift took place. And it was like, it was only my mind that changed going down that highway. But the energetic vision that I get when I close my eyes and tap into myself driving down that highway it was kind of like I was in one notch where, I'm a creator. I live in poverty because I teach spiritual work, and that's what happens. And so that's the way it is. And at that instant, when I had that instruction to get off the highway, get a $100 bill and give it away, it was like the whole energy pattern around me, like literally the whole world shifted. Like everybody that I've dealt with ever since. Everybody prior to that, I was a space that was strong enough to withhold from myself any kind of real abundance. And at that moment, I became a space where something different happened. So yes, we're unique and individual, and we have a community. And each of us that advances, Yeshua says, well, it just takes a little leavening. We don't have to get everybody to do it. Get enough people, and the energy system starts to shift. And when it does, then energetically we are the space where it comes out of the quantum world into what we call manifestation. Go ahead, Jeanie.
I was just going to say, is that where then the scripture also says that you may be the sons of your Father who's in heaven, for he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sendeth rain on the just and the unjust?
Yeah, the Creator, in other words, the Creator is going to supply only good. That's all there is to it. There is nothing else. And if what the critical mass, quote-unquote, good is, we're sinners and we need to suffer and have pain and trauma, then that will be their good. When do we give it up? When do we become the space for something different to manifest? Remember, in the Aramaic language, the word manifest means obvious. When does it become obvious to us that, yes, we can step into total, complete trust of the Creator and let go of or forgive every fear, every trepidation, every thought that, my power person is going to show up again at any time and destroy me. Well, it happens through forgiveness. It happens through processing out that which blocks my capacity to be in perfect trust, which is the same thing that blocks that which I consider to be good coming to me.
Yeah.
And
I love the concept.
what we're talking about when we look at this, what we're talking about is, remember how the fly comes into the room and doesn't see the fan blade or the TV or the piece of art on the wall or the drawing or the stereo system or the vitamins. The fly doesn't see that. The fly sees infrared light, there's heat, food. That's the fly's perception. My offering is at this stage, while we're still carrying so much hostility and fear, we're kind of like, the fly is maybe at a level 2 in the creation on a scale of 100. We're maybe at a level 7, and we're designed to be functioning at 100. Whoa. So when they say to Yeshua, okay, wise guy, you got an answer to this? Okay, now tell me. I want to hear it. And what does Yeshua say? There's so many things I want to say to you. You don't have the brain cells. And, some of the things I'm tapping back into that experience, and that was, my kids were 4. My son was 4. He's 43 now. But tapping back into that, it's like I have to go back to that energetically, and I still can only get a sense of it, and I'm still fumbling and feeble and disabled in language that could fully explain what it is that I'm working to describe the experience that I'm talking about.
Boy, I really am hearing you. This is good. The idea that we're creators.
Exactly.
We're creators of whatever we experience. So I am powerful because I've created my experience of just what I'm experiencing.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Woo! I wonder why we like to do that.
And words are a feeble way to explain that at this stage, because again, where the fly's at a 2 and we're maybe at a 7, we're designed to function at 100. And we're trying to comprehend things that the only language that could possibly describe it is a language on level 100. And we got a ways to go before we're going to be able to even start to comprehend what the words would be at a level 100.
And meanwhile, you've written this piece. I haven't read it yet, but I like how it begins for sure. Yeah. So you're trying to put it into words because we need it.
That's the whole thing, is to get it to where it becomes comprehensible. It's going to challenge, but also to make it acceptable. It's like, and to bring forward enough understanding to say, here's the tool that's going to do it for you. My words aren't going to do it for you. This article, that worksheet is going to do it for you. It's going to be your work that will do it for you. And the only real teacher that can actually truly directly teach you about it is inside of you. It isn't out here. That's the big mistake of Churchianity. Churchianity wants to be the source of it all for everybody. And it can't, because the teacher is Ruka, is inside of us. The whole objective to me of what we're doing is to guide people back to that relationship. So breathing with everybody, holding the space. And we're going to get frost in tonight. So if anybody wants to come help me in the garden, that's my job this afternoon. So come help and get things ready. All right, well, we're down to the last few seconds. Much appreciation for the input in the conversation. Let's carry it on tomorrow.
What are you going to say, Jeanie?
I was just going to say I looked up the verse, and it actually says, I still have many things to say to you, but you can't bear to hear it. So it's not just that you can't hear it, but you can't bear to hear it.
No. The non-being mind. If one who's living out of the non-being mind were fully exposed to truth in an instant, they'd be destroyed. They'd be non-functional. The objective here is to bring that higher state that if it were to come in right now would just shatter everything that we think we are. And that would make us non-functional. But to build the brain cells so that step by step we become functional, was there's those higher capacities and higher understandings. So holding a space, I'm surprised the show hasn't cut us off yet, because we're a little past time. Everybody, create the best year out of your eternal life. Let's carry the conversation.